Welcome back to Made Up of Wires, where we are decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night. The only stream that you'll find where Monday through Thursday Castlevania Symphony of the Night is being decompiled. Thanks for joining. If you're new here, you can go to soten.z.dev to learn more about the Castlevania Symphony of the Night decompilation project. You'll find the progress on all the overlays that we've been working on. Last week, we added Doppleganger 40. And the reason I added the reason I got tongue-tied, the reason I added Doppleganger 40 is because we added Doppleganger 10. I've not added it to the decomp progress page. If you go to Zianemo's GitHub project, though, you will see the progress there. It's actually a little bit further along for total code decompilation than BO4, which is Doppleganger 10. But in terms of functions, it's a little behind. So we know that there's some differences between the two. We haven't found those differences yet, and I'm not looking for those differences yet. I'm looking for the similarities. And how do we find the similarities? We can look at the dupes report. I don't think this is the one that I had opened before, but yeah, maybe this is. Yes, it is. I'm going to look at this cluster of functions here. So these are pairs of functions that exist in both Doppleganger 40 and Doppleganger 10. It looks like the first and third are the same, and the second and fourth are the same. And so we'll take a look at those. I don't know anything about those functions. So we'll learn about them together and see if we can get any of that decompiled. It might be a little work. It might not be. We'll see. Hey, Antoine. Good to have you back. One thing I was working on last week, I posted this in Discord, and I think there's some support for it, so I'm going to move forward with it a little bit, but I'm running into some issues that I thought would be easy to resolve, and they're not. I see that cell has a big failed on it, and that's because I was adding lints specifically for strings, which are const static strings, so read-only strings. Generally, these are inline strings, often to the font print function. And what I wanted to do with those was basically add a lint so that you never have global variables being passed when that could just be an inline string. And then I ran into this function in cell in segment 33164, which doesn't work. And I'm not sure why. I'm going to give it one more shot, and I'll show you what's going on and what Splat says. So cell is the stage selection stage. It's a stage in that it fills the stage area of memory and is loaded like a stage, but really it's responsible for loading the save game and showing you all your saves and memory card slots and things like that. So we have a segment that was originally split here, 27AF8, and then another segment that was split at 27B14. And this is what the build system wants, but it wants these strings not in this file, but in the file before it. And this is how this was when I came across it. These strings were in this earlier file, and if we run make extract and run make again, so Splat is writing a new linker script. We do need to declare these. I probably could just check this out. I don't think there's anything different here. And then that works fine. So somewhat odd that these strings that could be static inline are appearing earlier. These strings aren't used earlier. The next function in order is this 3164 function at the top here. If I try to move these strings back into 33164, there's a little bit of an issue here with how Splat does the extraction. It might be SPIM doing this when you have multiple segments that have the same name. In this case, the name is the offset of the first function. Only one of them gets written to the data file that gets written out. So I'm not the biggest fan of having multiple segments all point to the same object like this does. So I'm going to comment one of these out. So this data does start at this AF8, and we can tell because the automatic variable name that was given to these is this AF8 variable. If I move this back over here and then run extract again, I'm just going to run extract by itself. This is the only file that's changed, so that's the only one that's being extracted. We get a warning from Splat saying the RO data segment at 33164 has jump tables that are not properly aligned file-wise, indicating one or more file splits. And so if we look at the jump table that is at this 27B14 and see what function, so it could be maybe there's a function further down in this file and we could split that function off and that'll work fine. But unfortunately, that's not the case. When we look for that offset, we get this jump table here. So here's our strings, our static strings here. The jump table starts here. We have another static string down below. What's interesting is that SPIM did not identify these as ASCII strings. I'm not sure why, but it didn't. And let's look for where that jump table is being used. And it's being used in function 3164, and that's the first function in this file. I haven't looked. There is one missing function in cell. And sometimes when you don't have all the functions decompiled, there's some issues there. So effectively, if I move the RO data split to match these static strings to keep them in this 33164 object, then this jump table used by that same function becomes misaligned. And if I keep the split beforehand, the strings are associated with an object where they're not used. And so I'm not sure what exactly is going on there. We'll build this one more time. We did the make extract, so this is going to fail. Let me try vbin diff and see if that is effective, or if I can tell what's going on. Often vbin diff, I can't really make heads or tails of it. I did notice in Discord, Ziano mentioned that he had actually written another diff tool. So there's bdiff. Okay, so there's gobin diff from Zianimo. We can take a look at that as well and see if that works. So I'm going to look at the disks US st cell.bin. That's the retail US release. And then look at mine build US cell.bin. This is the one that we just built. So the first thing we see is that there's an additional 4 bytes that are being added to the text before the text segment somewhere. So everything in the text segment is going to be offset 4 bytes. So when we get down to the text segment offsets, everything's going to show up as wrong. And vbin diff doesn't know the difference, so it's going to just be angry when we get down there. We were looking at Drat. I should have had this open in another tab. These are kind of the same thing. These are just offsets. 33164. That was. Let me look at where these offsets are. We want 27AF8 is where we're going to be looking. And let's see if I can go to position 27AF8. There we go. This is somewhat. Let's do it like that. Yeah, that's better. 2. Sorry. 27AF, and then here is 8, starting here, and then down below. Let me line that up. So our strings are correct. This is OA is a new line character. And so our string goes to here, and then we have padding, and that's fine. And then we have our next string ends in OA, and then we have some padding. And then we have a bunch of padding. And I'm not sure why. It seems like there's no reason that this additional padding should be necessary, especially for RO data all in the same file. I'm not sure why you would pad internally in a file and not externally when 2 objects are being linked. That makes less sense to me than the opposite, where you might pad one object out to a certain number of bytes to make linking easier between them. I don't know. Hey, Nate the Great, good to have you back. Haven't seen you in a while. Hope things are going well for you. But that's effectively what's happening is we're getting additional data, additional padding that's being added when we have those static strings and the jump table being generated from the same C file. So vbin diff, I used it. It worked. I got it done. That's good. I'm not sure why that is. That seems strange and broken in a way that that I'm not sure of quite yet. And unfortunately, that means unless I add, and I could do this, this would be reasonably straightforward to do, unless I add some logic to suppress the lint checks on these lines, I can't check in that linter. So maybe I'll do that, and then we could have something like so lint ignore and figure out what's going on there. It might be interesting to look at the PSP version. Cell for PSP has some known differences between the two games. So again, I'm not sure how I'm going to proceed with this, but it's something else that I was working on other than just Doppelganger stuff. So let me extract this, and then I'll probably go back to the Doppelganger branch and see what's going on. I think everything that I've worked on the stream has been checked in. And let me see what's here. Get this cleaned up. Did some splitting around. See, I've cleaned these up in other places, and it's worked fine. Let's go back to RBO5. I may have to... Nope. Fortunately, I only had one commit in that branch. Excuse me. And that's the commit that was pulled in. So nothing more to do there. So what was I going to work on? I was going to work on these 4 functions over here. Let's take the BO4 version and we'll look at that, and we'll base our changes off that. So what I want to look at first is whether or not there's anything in here that I should be thinking of first. So we spent a lot of time mapping Doppelganger globals that are in DRA. Thinking about it a little bit since last week, this may screw up some other people because Doppelganger is the first stage entity, but that means everywhere that uses the first stage entity directly is going to be treated as Doppelganger if the symbols are mapped. We can fix that if it becomes an issue. All these 801Ds, these are going to be in the stage or the boss memory area, so I'm not too worried about those. So not too long of a function. Sorry, should be showing you what I'm looking at. So mostly it's these 801D, 4D74, D70, B44. I don't recall offhand whether I've seen these or not, or if any of them are already mapped to variables, but we'll find out. So I'm going to copy that over and we'll go to decomp.me and start these up. So this is the PlayStation version. I haven't really thought about doing the PSP decomp at the same time, primarily because it's already Doppelganger 10 and Doppelganger 40. It should be noted, I guess, when somebody does come through and does the PSP decomp, that those are done at the same time. So there's some funny go-tos and things like that. Let's see if we can work through it. And just to check, make sure that I think this is the one that I just created. Yeah. So nobody has worked on this before, which is good to not deduplicate or dedupe. To duplicate work. So we need to figure out these variables that are missing. We're not going to do anything until we get those. So let's clean this up just a little bit and see if we can figure out those types. a bunch of masking going on. It looks like if we can figure out what those are, then it should be reasonably easy to tell what these masks are as well. Sometimes we see this where there's a assignment in the middle of all this. We'll have to figure that out as well. Often that's basically just a nested if, and that condition comes next. So G API check collision will help us figure out what this might be. So we have temp S6 has to do with the Doppleganger's position. Then this looks like a byte array, unless VARS3 is scaled by something. It is scaled by 4, so this will be a 32-bit array. And so we can make that an S32. Let's look. I'm going to go back over here and just do a quick search and see if any of these are already defined. Because if we have better types for them, I'd rather use those. So far not. And those are the only 3 that weren't known. So I'm going to go back and I will add that one to the context and see if that gets any closer. So it, no closer. So let's look at this AE. So it looks like kind of the same thing, VARS3 being used again. VARS3 was, I believe, scaled by 4. Yes. So this is going to be another sine 32. And we can pull that out as well. And we could go double check these as well and see what SPIM thought that they might have been. And then this B44. VARS4 is its stride. This is being each offset is 36 bytes. Same thing with this B40, but B40 is acting like it's known. I think that these are probably the same thing, and they must be the same thing. It's just one field in from this. So let's look for something that's hex 24 bytes big in include ASM. Not include ASM, game ASM. So looking for size. Collider. That makes sense. So I'm going to say that this B40 is going to be a collider array. Unfortunately, this B44 is going to be just the first offset into the collider array. And or the 4 bytes into the collider array, I should say. So this is a collider. So that's going to be unknown 4 for the collider. So we're going to call this collider as well, and we just have to remember that it's not really the collider, it's unknown 4 into the collider. And some of these others may be similar, but we'll see. I'm going to take all that and throw that into the context, and then run decomp again. and see what M2C tells us. And it still didn't give us a good... I'm not real happy with this M2C output. So it should know that B40 is a collider. But I guess it's treating it as a collider array. Where's VARS2? I guess this D70 is also a collider. And so is D74. VARS4 is 0. So this is the index into this. So these are arrays, but for reasons I don't understand at the moment, M2C does not want to treat them that way. Not sure about this C14, so we'll just leave it as a sine 32 for now. So I'm going to throw all of these into the context now. I mean, as much as possible, I would like M2C to do the work, because that's less that I have to think about. I think the untangling some of the go-tos may end up being a little more time-consuming than mapping the fields, but this is what we have. This is somewhat interesting. We're taking the temp S6 is a reference to position Xi high. That seems like an odd optimization. It's always being dereferenced when it's used. The reason this may... No, it is taking that reference. I have no idea why that would be. That's odd as well. All right, so let's try to fix these errors, and then we'll get to trying to match it. All right, so we need these are arrays, so we're going to try to put the right access in place. This 22 is a little interesting. So we're taking the address of this other set of colliders and subtracting 22C from it. M2C, when it's decompiling, doesn't always do a good job of dividing by the size of the pointer. So that's 15 before. And if we take that address, we actually get this B40. And so let's see when. So it's unknown 4 of B40. So that's really odd as well. This whole thing is a little bizarre. I don't know why that's happening. Okay, so it looks like D70 may be the end of this array. Maybe there's 16 items in this array. I don't know, just some odd stuff. I want to find any references to D74. because it's going to be the same as D70 unknown 40, or sorry, unknown 4. I should slow down though and fix my compile errors first. So 26, let's clean this up a little bit. This is what I cleaned up earlier, but we'll do it again. Oi. So a lot of inline argument calculation. So basically we're taking a collider, checking the collision. We're not actually looking at the value because that's not how the return value comes back in SP10. Doing another assignment down here, and then finally this is what the OR is about, whether or not the collider effects were not equal to 0. So back here we need to figure out what this was. So we're looking at ultimately this is going to be I. I'm going to create an I variable up here. We'll figure out this loop in a second. Set I to 0, and then get rid of this S4, and this is going to be effects of this array. So we mentally have to keep track of where var_s2, var_s4, var_s3, and I, how they interact, where this loop is. Let's see if we can figure out that loop first. So var_s7 is our main, sorry, var_s1 is our main I. So I will set that. Oops, don't want capital I. You can do it. You don't have to replace the I. Come on. I know you can do it. It's too fast for me. That's what happens when you get old. Computers move too fast. So this I = 0 up here, that's just an optimization that is happening from GCC. So I'm going to set up my for loop up here and get rid of those labels. So it's I is less than 7. I++. And what's interesting is how does this code I see. So if our this needs to be part of our loop. Get rid of this here. I'm going to indent all of this. for our for, this will be an else. If the else has failed, we're going to do this in return. And then we can get rid of our loop, and we can get rid of this. Get rid of our I plus 1. Get rid of our I there. All right, so a couple more things to get compiling. 58. This should be a dot. And then 67. This is I of unknown 4. And we're compiling. So 67%, or 69%. Not the best, but it is what it is. Let's look at some of these go-tos and see if we can figure out what's going on there. We have some conditions that we can work out. Block 24. Well, what are we doing? We're setting these variables and then returning. Temp S6. Let's figure out what that is first. Temp S6 is Doppleganger position X. I high. Let's fix that. Oy, that's gross. Let me do this. I'm not sure yet why a reference is being used there. It definitely could be a pointer. I don't know why a pointer would be taken. So it's either an optimization from the compiler or an optimization that the programmer did while they were programming this. I'm going to grab the Doppleganger macro that's in source bus doppleganger.h. Oh no, is my yeah, it's up to 22. We need to figure out these. So that got us a little worse. That's okay. I think this one is going to be a worse before it gets better type scenario. Well, let's keep going and see what happens. So we don't know yet what this unknown 4 is. We're masking it basically with all of these different fields. Actually, we may be able to figure this out by looking at the collider. No, unknown 4 is unknown. So I'm not sure that we know what the flags are for these masks. So let's just call temp S0. I always think it's going to be a little easier than it ends up being. This first temp S0, I'm going to call it just unknown 4 because that's what we're looking at. And then temp S0 underscore 2, we can call effects. So that's what that is. Okay, so let's think about this logic a little bit. We're checking all these effect statuses. These we can look up. Unfortunately, a bunch of them are unknown. So C1001 is going to be whatever 8,000 and 4,000 are together plus solid. So we're looking at solid, unknown 2 and solid. I'm not sure, like these are, this selection is really odd because we're looking at like all these different permutations of something and solid, or something and quicksand, or sorry, 002 and solid. 002 being unknown. This one's a tricky one. It's always tricky to get into something new that you might be unfamiliar with. And that's okay. So this var AC underscore 2, these are indexed at I. And so we can get rid of a bunch of that. And a lot of times just cleaning it up, as things get cleaned up, you start seeing the pattern and it becomes more obvious. So hopefully that's what's going to happen here as well. So var S3, do we know what that is? Not yet. Oh, that's just our I variable. Var S2 is the collider. Unknown 4 of collider effects. Whatever the current, so var S2 is going to be it's being read as an unsigned half word. Let me clear up some of these errors. And see where I screwed up. 37, too few arguments to function. I have one extra paren in there. Getting worse. All right, so what should we do next? So AC and AE, those are probably part of the same array as well, and these are going to be a 0.16 array. So I'm going to change that now. 0.32. It'll be 0.16. The stride is 4 for 0.16. A bunch of optimization here that makes it harder than it should be. Let's see if there's anything. So what I originally wanted to do is figure out if this block 24, if we could figure out anything there. It looks like possibly. This is a little better, so I will replace that there for now, and maybe we'll get a little closer. These actually can just be a direct assignment without going to this other variable. And now there's no other references to block 24, so the same thing can happen here. This is actually, I think, ends up being the same thing here, even though Varus 2 is being used. And Varus 3 is gone. So Varus 4 is also gone. And so now we have Varus 2 left. Varus 2 is going to be unknown 4 of our collider at I. So I think that one can go away now too. So it's some X offset, it looks like, and I might add that note to collider. And let's look where these other I'm gonna see if I can pull the PSP version. So the way that this logic is written, with the go-tos the way that they are, my guess is that there is something much simpler going on with the logic, and it's just been twisted and tangled so much that that is a little difficult to see at the moment. This, I think I could get away with doing an else here. And we still need the go-to for 18, but then the go-to for 19 can go away. The go-to for 23, this may be duplicated because it's duplicated down here as well. That is getting things a little further away. I'm gonna back those out, and I think it's worth looking at the PSP version. I'm not sure if I have BO4 pulled for the PSP at the moment, so I might have to do that. So that is an ASM PSP EU boss. Nope, no bosses for PSP at the moment. So let's pull it. We're gonna use tools, make config, and our version is PSP EU, and our overlay is BO4. And we need to find that function, and the way that I like finding the function is by finding the most unique looking constant. CCO3 looks pretty good, and then I'm getting CCO3 from this line, as long as the collider effects have the same mask values, that should be present somewhere in a function in the PSP. Let's look first though at the PlayStation. I want to see how many functions CC03 ends up in. So we're looking at 44C8. It occurs once, 44C8, but then also occurs in 4710, which is the other matching function, I believe. We go back here, yeah, 4710. That's our other function that's similar, not quite the same, but similar. So when I do a search for this on the PSP side, I expect something similar to occur. This is slightly different the way it's laid out, and we have one instance of it in this CB28 function, and then two instances in the 5.8 function. So I think those probably match pretty closely what we see on the PlayStation. We have a good idea of some of the types, but I don't really like the structure. Usually I like the structure of what M2C does on the PlayStation better than the PSP. In this case, I don't really care for what M2C has done. So I don't know if once we get the types, it may be worth restarting on the PSP side. And I do want to look actually at the signature. So our signature is void void. And I'm going to just start this one fresh. I'm not going to provide any signatures. See what M2C can come up with, which isn't much. Our function call is the function call to check collision. And so we'll have to get that signature. And that will help quite a bit. And we'll throw that into the context and look at the decomp again. And so it went from not knowing that SP2C was a collider to now it does know that it's a collider, which is helpful. We can fix these. So CD94 is the same as D70. And so that's kind of the same thing. It's 4 bytes into a collider array. And so M2C or decomp.me M2C, they're not going to know that. But we can tell it that 90 is a collider array. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do for 94. We just have to know that this is unknown 4 of the above array. Let's find this B60. These, I think, were just assigned 32s. This was the 0.16, and this is going to be let's see. So 582 is going to be the Doppleganger offset into G entities. We don't have that mapped on the PSP either. The 6.8 is going to be a 0.16 array. 40 is looks like a collider as well, collider array. I think that's it. So let's take this back. The other ones are part of other structures. And we'll grab that and see if this is any better. Let's get this compiling and then... Oh, one thing we don't have is what preset that we're on. Let me decompile it one more time with the right preset and see if it changed anything. So we have some offsets that are way off, and I think that's because we're adding an index here that is missing. So we'll have to change that. And are those the only errors? I don't know. So looking at the PlayStation side, this is just effects at offset I. There's something else going on here that I'm not sure. I'm not sure why we'd be so far off. Let's see. Grab a calculator. Offset 120 divided by 24 hex is 8, which is quite a bit different. So I'm gonna say varus1 plus 8, and then this will be effects. I don't know if that's correct, but we'll see. I do, and I'd much rather have the PS1 global variable names, but for now, we'll use the PSP ones and then go from there. So this actually looks like the GAPI function call. Is that? Yes, it is GAPI check collisions. Check collision. So we need to fix the unknown 124. And this is Doppleganger, position X. And get rid of all the casts. So this is looking similar. I do like the scratches offline. That's okay. We're back. SP2C is our collider. I can replace that name. Doppleganger, I don't have that macro. I'm going to go grab that from my PlayStation context. Above these. Looks like I chopped out some parentheses that I need to return. M2C will typically be overly aggressive with grouping. Sometimes that grouping is necessary, but a lot of times it's not. I'm going to rename SP2C Collider because that's what we typically name it. And just a few more things to get this working over here. All right, so 70% on the PSP side. Let me do a few more things to get this cleaned up. So Doppleganger position X. I high. And we'll change our loop here to a for loop. And var_s1 becomes I. So here's one of the first things that may be happening here. So this variable was pulled out, or this the field was pulled out into a variable, and then all these calculations are being done. But there's much more that is being pulled out up here. So, for example, the Doppleganger position X and Y. Let's look at these globals. So those are being pulled out way at the top. And X does change, but it does look like it's being pulled out here. So I'm going to add variables for those. Or maybe they're just references. It is possible that they're references. That's what was happening on the PS, or how M2C interpreted what was happening on the PS1 side. How to read this is we're loading the high 16 bits of this symbol's value into register S2. Then we're loading the low 16 bits into register 2. And we're just loading the address. We're not actually using it. And then sometime much later, we're loading the value at offset 2. So yeah, it does appear that we're taking the X and Y pointers to the X and Y offsets. I don't know why. That seems bizarre to me. So let's do that. And unfortunately, they're happening out of order as well. We see the 8.6 and then followed by the 8.2. So now everywhere that we see Doppleganger Y, that's going to dereference this. And so we can go down to line 29 over here. And this will be a little hard to tell, but we're looking for S6. And ours is S2. And those do match up now, which is really bizarre. Hey, Doug, dig down deep. Thank you. I will delete what is now line 17. Appreciate the help. And then for position X, I high, we'll do the same and use .x instead. Can't get rid of it there. I can get rid of it there, and there, and there, and there. And that helped quite a bit. Really bizarre. So now our unknown... so we're grabbing effects. So I'll add a new variable for that as well. And that's going to be an S5, which coincidentally we get. We're taking a reference to that as well. And what are we doing with our reference to effects? It looks like we are using it here. And so this temp S0, that all looks correct. So this temp S0, I'm going to call unknown 4 again, like I did on the PlayStation side. And get rid of it there. All right, so now down line 22, this +8 doesn't seem to exist. I use that +8 because of the offset 120. It doesn't seem necessary, and all the symbols line up, except down here. Oh, hey, Entropy Gravity Well. I think for 5 month. 5 month is paper, right? No, I'm kidding. So we're loading the offset at 120. So basically, it's a collider, but it's being treated as just a. I like the eyebrows. It's being treated as an unsigned 16. Let me indent all of this for my own sanity. What can we say about that? So what could be happening is we know that this is an array of 15 colliders. Let me try that. If I know that the size is 15, let's see, that's one A40. I'm going to assume it's 16. Right, so if I know the size is 16 and then do a +8 here, will that, no, it doesn't. What else can I do? The offset of 120 is really throwing me off. Maybe is I not being used? Yeah, if I use just a constant, it is not. So if I, this is really gross, but if I treat this as an unsigned 16 pointer, it'll be an unsigned 32 pointer. And then 120 divided by 4 would be x30. Nope. This is really bad. I don't know why this would happen, and I hate it. I'm gonna rename effects to P effects for pointer, because I'd like to use effects for this variable. Yeah, this is some unholy stuff right there. So let's see what the next thing is. So we have some immediate offset differences. Not concerned with those. Once we clean this up, those should hopefully change. This is going to be a very similar unholy cursed expression, I think. I think these are out of order based on the PlayStation version. And that works not as unholy as I... Oh, yeah. No, we're missing the unholy part. So I'm going to do the same thing over there. It's just going to be one additional field over. Unfortunately, when doing this, these are actually pulled out into a separate variables. But unfortunately, when doing this, we risk this being less portable because we're saying, I know what the size of this struct is. And I'm just going to index directly into a field in that struct. And so if you're using types with variable widths, then that all just gets thrown out. Hey, is 1, 2, 3 t? 1, 2, 3 t? Good to have you. So the reason I knew that these were in separate variables was this SEH instruction, sign extend half. So the calculation that's being done here is all 32-bit. And then the sign extend half is saying basically treat that as a 16-bit value and store it into this variable. And the same thing down here. We have to convert this back to a 16-bit. But then when we call this function and pass it in, we have to convert it back to 32 bits. So just some hints from the PSP instructions there. That happens to me when, so some stack pointer issues, we'll deal with those in a little bit. Anytime I take one of those like nighttime PM type medicines, like Tylenol PM or anything like that, like I just feel the worst the next day. And it's almost better if I don't take it and just deal with whatever's, like, just deal with the lack of sleep. So sorry for your pain. Fun fact, not for the kids, but maybe I can't say anything because of YouTube guidelines and other guidelines, but the active ingredient in something like Tylenol PM is the same basically as Benadryl. And so I'd rather, if I am having trouble sleeping, take just something for sleep. So I just take Benadryl. We're trying to reverse. The initial decompilation came from M2C. So SPIM does a disassembly, which gives us this nice assembly listing. And then M2C will do a first pass decompile. Usually that doesn't compile. So M2C doesn't do anything to ensure that the code that it's generating will generate compilable code. And then our job here is to make it compile and get it to match what SPIM extracted. So down here on line 59, this is another one of those cases where these end up being references. And so it looks like this pointer effects is being used instead. And I think that's happening up here as well. A lot of pointers. This is pretty atypical. Get rid of this 8, but we're in the same position. I might add a macro for this. Getting this offset of 124 again. This does happen a reasonable amount in this code base where things that we think of as arrays of structs are treated by other developers just as these huge integer arrays, or signed 16. Does IDA not do a good enough job? That's a good question. I've been meaning to look at IDA's output and see what it is compared to M2C. I know I've looked at Ghidra in the past. Ghidra does not produce good enough output. I don't think it's any better for this than M2C. But yeah, it would be good to look at IDA. I've been meaning to do that and haven't done it. So good reminder to look at that. I think I signed up for open source. I think IDA is free. For not open source, it's very expensive, which is part of the reason that I've not looked at it in the past. And there's a lot of community work and tooling and other things like that that's been built up around M2C. I'm going to switch this around. I changed the order of this earlier because I thought they were in the wrong order, but now looking at it and looking at the order of the registers, it seems like that may have been wrong. I'm going to try this first. That's really wrong. And so I'm looking at these registers here, A0 and V0. A0 is this. Are these wrong down here? They seem right. And V0 is just whatever's in the middle. Let me try moving this to the end, seeing if that makes a difference. No. And originally this was in the front. Right there. I think that's going to be way off, though. So the other thing that may be happening is that this part of this expression is done first, and then the second part is done as a plus equals. I could type the correct variable and that would help, but that's not correct either. And yeah, that makes sense because then the sign extensions need to be done multiple times, and that's not happening. So like a scaled stormtrooper. Is that on your big machine entropy gravity well? Helmet or the whole thing? Oh, on the smaller one. All right, so now I need to fix these other references. So this is the PFX down here as well. I have a pretty big metal slug that I printed, and I need to I had to print it in 3 parts, and I haven't finished it. And it would look super cool when it's done. It's huge. You can't really tell on camera. I think it's so my print bed is 220, and it probably was maybe 150 millimeters each, so maybe 450 for the whole thing. So not quite 18 inches wide. I haven't really printed that much Star Wars stuff. I don't know why. Do you do modeling too, Entropy Gravity Well? Watch quick segue to watch Gravity Well's 3D print in real time. Oh, this is your multi-filament printer though, right? There's so much going on here, like my brain. So it's a stormtrooper, clearly. And it looks knitted, but it's not knitted. It's 3D printed. Very cool. Having a truly knitted version. I like the colors too. That's awesome to be able to print multiple colors. I like it. I haven't even been watching the progress. We're at 97%, which is pretty good. I've not been feeling very good about this function, and so to see it slowly working closer is encouraging. So what are we missing here? So we have some stack pointer offset differences. These are immediate differences that we're not going to be able to fix. Immediates. So we need to figure out, there's an additional variable that I have that is not necessary. So I need to figure out what that is. Reformat some of this. So what do we have that is not necessary? So I'm going to go down through these and try to figure out which one is missing. So the way that, so this is MetroWorks as the compiler, and the way that MetroWorks is going to allocate variables, it has different sections for each size. And then within that section, it's going to possibly, it's going to allocate where those are and which registers it gives to those in the order that they're declared. And so really, we have collider, which is a large object, excuse me. That's going to be its own thing. Don't have to worry about that. All the 32-bit values are going to be a thing. And then these 16-bit values. So the first thing I see is that this offset Y and offset X seem to be allocated or declared in very different places. So I'm going to move this way up and see if that changes anything. So I do have S6 for both of those at the moment. And I do have S2 for X at the moment, which is what I want. Unfortunately, the things that a FDM printer are going to print are stiff and rigid. So if that's the way you like them, and I think you could do just that. S5 is, those look the same. So really we need to figure out what this S7 variable is. S7 is this unknown 40, and it looks like I have this effects. It looks like these might be the same thing. Unknown 4, though, is being used very differently. And that was it. And so this matches now, with the exception of the immediates. I really hate how this, how this is implemented. I'm going to take this and I'm going to copy it over. And then what I want to do is replace all the symbols with the PlayStation 1 symbols. We only have a handful of them, so I think it should be fine. 90 is our... this will take a little bit of work to go through, so bear with me. This one seems to be possibly right in the middle of... Yeah, so I should have... This is effects for... Is it? I think that this is effects for offset 15 of this, but maybe not. I'm going to leave it the way that it is and then come back. And we can look at some of the variables and see what that might be. Let's scroll down here. And I'm just going to choose one of these. It's probably wrong. As long as I have the symbol. I did choose the wrong symbol. I'm going to choose this. Let me declare something new that I know is wrong. And as long as it's the correct type, it'll compile. What does it not like about that? Oh, these should be unsigned. So still not a match here, but it's possible that I have some wrong variables or offsets. So the way that this calculation is being done is does appear different. So we'll have to reconcile somehow how this offset is being calculated. I'm going to go to the data that's extracted and see what's being pulled there. Our branches are off. And then this is less important, but the way that these registers are being incremented is off as well. But it is closer. This is a gross one. There is still this register issue on line 37. And again, this I think has to do with just ordering here. So let's try this. What if we switch this ordering, which is less important. That stays the same, so I think this might be slightly better. No, it still doesn't fix it. I mentioned before that M2C puts a lot of parentheses in places. So let us put our own parentheses in places and see if we can force ordering that way. Nope. So still some things that are not quite right. What time is it? 1:57. Oh, it's late. It's late. All right, so we're getting closer, but not exactly where I was hoping to be with this. Let me check one more thing and see. So I put this wrong variable in here specifically, and I do want to see what that should be, and maybe that'll help. So I need to find line 53, and one of the things I'm noticing is that there isn't a line 53 showing up here, and MetroWorks is configured for Symphony of the Night to not run an optimization pass. And so regardless of whether the code is reachable or not, MetroWorks doesn't care. It will emit code for it regardless. GCC for the PlayStation 1 is going to eliminate any code that is unreachable. And one thing I see here, it's just compress this all to the same line. Sometimes GCC is really bad about documenting which line. And again, this is being treated as a sine 32, even though it's not. or unsigned 32, sorry. And so we have to do a trick here to force that. But that's still not working. All right, so there's other things that are going on here that I'm not sure about, and I don't have time to figure out today. It probably is worth eventually throwing this into the permuter and having that take a look at it. And maybe, as was mentioned in chat, what can IDA Pro do in a situation like this? One thing that will take some work anytime you're pulling in new tooling, especially with a project that's relatively complex, is how do you set it up to be productive there as well. So I think that'll take a little trial and error as well. But I would be interested in looking at IDA Pro. I don't think, because the code that's being generated is the same for Doppleganger 40 and Doppleganger 10, and then this other function, the code that's being generated is also extremely similar. I don't think there's actually much value in pulling those. It may be worth pulling the other function on the PSP. We don't know how similar the code gen is on the PSP for those two functions to know whether they're similar enough to get some value there. But the final result on the PSP does not make me very happy. I don't think it's a very good looking function. So we'll see. There's still definitely something else going on that I'm not quite sure about. And let's see what time it is. I definitely have to get going. I'm going to end the stream here on a fail, but that's okay. We've been decompiling Castlevania Symphony of the Night, looking at Doppleganger 10 and 40 functions that are the same. We weren't able to get to a matching decompile today, but I'll work on it a little bit offline and see if I can get something that's working. Good to have Nate the Great back with us in chat. And should be Gravity Well, Dig Down Deep. Good to have you as well as it's 123. Oh, it is 123. Is 123T? Nice to have you showing up for the first time. Really appreciate everybody showing up to chat. I mentioned, and have mentioned in the past, I'm going to be at Game On Expo in the beginning of April in the Phoenix downtown. If you want to come see me, that'd be great to see you. I don't know the schedule yet. They were supposed to publish the schedule at the end of February. I reached out last week to see if I could get the schedule, and they don't have it done yet. So I don't know. One of the exciting things, and I mentioned this before, Tony Hawk is going to be there, which is cool. I'm a big fan of Radical Reggie, and the whole Metal Jesus crew. They're going to be there. Hope to meet them. I've met John Hancock in the past. Asked him some questions about how he insures his video game collection, and unfortunately, nobody knows how to insure a video game collection. I'll talk to him, I think, a little bit about that this year as well. So that's all I got. I'll be back tomorrow, and hopefully we'll find something working. There are, so this I think is the third-ish function in Doppelganger that is very different from things that I've seen elsewhere in Symphony of the Night, and that is treating data structures very differently than they're typically treated. And so there might be some other tricks in here as well. And we don't know who wrote these functions or necessarily what else they worked on in the game. That'd be helpful sometimes to know just what their style was. But oh, Antoine, sorry, forgot to call you out as well. Is the talk going to be recorded? I don't know. I don't think that Game On Expo records the talks, and I don't have the capacity to do that. So maybe not. I do plan on giving at least parts of the talk on the stream as I ramp up a practice. I think most of you guys have heard everything that there is before. There's a bit of a story woven through the whole thing, and it's mostly for people who don't really know anything about this project or what we're doing. So there's going to be some introductory stuff in there as well. Did I try the Konami hotline? Is it in there? Did I try? That's funny. I always think that it would be fun to reach out to some of the people who are around. The Soten manual says to join the Video Game Central forum on CompuServe, and I need to join CompuServe by calling 1-800-524-3388. Oh, there is the tip line, 900-896 hint. Good numbers, 95 cents a minute. And if I want direct support from a game counselor, it'll be $1.25. Touch-tone phones only. I do want to say thank you as well before I get going. I reached out to the Electronic Frontier Foundation. If you don't know who they are, definitely go check them out, EFF.org, just to see if they would provide any swag to give away. And they sent like 2 pounds of stickers. So I have a ton of EFF swag to give away as well. Anyway, that's all. See y'all tomorrow.